Hello, this is CTMU Singularity. In this video, we're going to discuss Thomas Aquinas' argument for God from the first mover and show why this is arguably one of the greatest arguments for the existence of God ever formulated and is a logical proof not only of God's being, but of some key aspects of the CTMU. The first mover argument is not the Kalam cosmological argument and does not rely on temporal ordering. The Kalam cosmological argument, which I've done a video on and why I think it's flawed, relies on the impossibility of an infinite regress. Everything which begins to exist has a cause. Because the universe must exist, it too must have a cause. This cause must be timeless, spaceless, enormously powerful, ergo, God. The first mover argument is more nuanced. It relies on the distinction between act and potency, which you can think of as short for actual and potential. There are a number of actual things. I'm actually 5'7". It's actually 71 degrees outside. I'm actually driving 50 miles an hour, etc. These are not essential qualities of being. There's a world in which I could have potentially have eaten more chicken and broccoli and gotten taller, where potentially the weather was different day to day due to some higher order dynamics which I'm not aware of, where I potentially decided to drive at a different speed. And so motion, in the sense of the first mover, is what causes things to change from potency to act. And to do that, you need something to bring it from a potential to an actual state. Things don't change of their own accord. And the thing which does that, Aquinas says, must already be so. This is how Father Gregory Pine explains this. So that thing which made it such, which is actual, such as the efficient cause, the person or process which affected the change, or the final cause, the purpose that agent had for the change, must have existed as a potency as well at some point, and so on and so forth. So what is the intrinsic, efficient, and final cause of all that exists? Because this chain cannot logically or temporally extend forever. It must be something which causes change without itself changing. And this everyone understands to be God. Using Aquinas' juxtaposition of potency and actuality coupled with teleology and necessity, we can induce the existence of a personal God who intentionally created the universe. Obviously, Aquinas' first mover argument extends into CTMU metaphysics because of these joint functions of potentialization and actualization, that in order for something to be actualized in the terminal domain, the display of the reality self-simulation, it must first have existed as a potentiae, or a telon, in the non-terminal domain, the processing for the reality self-simulation. Reality is considered to be this beautiful cybernetic system which is constantly communicating with itself to see which potencies are most utile and then selecting from that space of potential one state. And this leads us to tertia via, Aquinas' third way, the argument from contingency. Again, we start with the mundane observation that there are things in reality which it is possible that it never were so. So there's no reason why I had to exist intrinsically. My great-grandparents could never have met, and even if they did, the circumstances of my life could be radically different. Despite all the various potentials which could be realized, there could be Bob somewhere and that never existed, but despite all these potentials which could be realized, only a small subset of those which are logically possible are instantiated in our reality. So this problem can be formulated one in two ways. Number one is the classical ontological formulation, is that why is reality not uninstantiated, patternless nothingness? In other words, why is there something rather than nothing? Or, more interestingly in my opinion, number two, why does reality have one instantiation, one pattern, one essence? In other words, why is there not everything rather than nothing? Or why is there not everything rather than this thing? And this is why the CTMU redefines the nebulous zero concept to pure potential, because where you're failing to make a choice and every potential has equal reality, that's the same as having nothing, essentially. You've given me zero information. So the CTMU explains the why is there this thing as opposed to everything question quite succinctly. The non-terminal domain is composed of tellers, beings such as human beings and God, who have intrinsic goals and directed aims seeking to fulfill themselves. They have a teleology, a purpose. And the reason why particular things exist cannot be explained in the terminal domain is because the vast majority of objects which have actual reality are not intelligent. Can a rock destroy the structure of logic, the laws of physics, even the matter distribution of the rock itself? No, there has to be something higher order going on. And this is determined by telons. These are spiritual beings, essentially, which are the function of the will of the primary and secondary tellers, God and human beings respectively, who intelligently, by calling on this space of potentials and forms and ideas in the non-terminal domain, coordinate events in such a way as to bring about the emergence of this potential. It's a potency which is actualizing itself according to the will of God and his images. Telons are items in the will of God, you can think about that. So this is how all of reality must work. And the fact that this particular structure exists, that which we can see all around us, means that for some reason this is, in fact, the best of all possible worlds. It's based on the agentive and global wills, the optimal way for reality to self-actualize over time. The actuality, as opposed to the potency of reality, requires a purposeful, pattern-generating prime mover, which establishes the orderly harmony of existence as well as wills certain things into existence, not because of some transcendent good hovering over it or as an arbitrary decision of it, but as the expression of its very being. So I'm going to add a sixth argument, actually, to Aquinas' five-way to get around the problem of moving from a first mover to a personal God, the argument by unisect, and this is very much the CTMU argument. Anything which is participating in God's being, which must be the case, because anything is an actuality, and anything which is a thing is an actuality, and any actuality must be related to the prime mover telonically. And it has certain attributes such as intelligence, personality, creativity, will, our relationship to other fellow beings. These characteristics must be realized by the prime mover as well, obviously, or in a generalized way. So Orthodox theologian Jonathan Pageau discusses this, that God is a person because we view the world through our human consciousness, and the highest thing we encounter is always other people, the highest ontological aspect, the prime mover. The image of the infinite is not a force or an idea like, New Agers will say. It has to be connected to our experience of the world. And the way we relate to one another is thereby how God relates to himself and to his creation intrinsically. So, I'll close with a prayer from St. Thomas Aquinas himself. Grant me, O Lord my God, a mind to know you, a heart to seek you, wisdom to find you, conduct pleasing to you, faithful perseverance in waiting for you, and a hope of finally embracing you. Amen. And a quote, to one who has faith, no explanation is necessary. To one without faith, no explanation is possible. That the light shine forth in the darkness. May the peace of our Father in heaven be upon you. Like and subscribe. Peace.